two, 1 2, 1 2, 1 2. Where are we? All right. There we go. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast or the YouTube video, depending on what you're watching this on. If you're listening to this on your podcast app, you can head over to the YouTube and watch some videos of me talking to you instead of listening. And as always, please like, share, subscribe, and if you want to lend me your support, you can do so for £1 a month over on Patreon. So today I'm going to be talking about a couple of different things. This video is about the media silence over the Seymour Herschs article that he published on his Substack. Now, I'm going to show you a video of Seymour Herschs actually talking. Seymour Herschs is like this 91-year-old dude. He has a multi-Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. He exposed the My Lai massacre in Vietnam, which is when American soldiers went into the village in My Lai and they massacred the inhabitants. It was denied for a long time. Seymour Herschs uncovered the truth, and his reporting, along with others, is widely credited with helping bring the Vietnam War to an end. And also, as I've spoke about in other videos, it's people like him that has forced the hand, really, of the American administration. If they want to continue to go around the world fighting, they can't allow people like Seymour Herschs to find out about it, so they stop them from going into these places. As we know, the Iraq War, the embedded journalists and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, can you think of any good journalism that's come out of Afghanistan, for example? Why is that? I don't know. So things like that, and then obviously, every American administration has made the matter, compounded the matter, made it worse. Even the so-called Nazis, Obama and etc., who isn't a Nazi at all. So 91-year-old Seymour Herschs published his article on his Substack. Now, Seymour Herschs I think he was originally with like the New York Times, etc. And then the more stuff he exposed Abu Ghraib, he exposed the Obama administration was lying about the assassination of Osama bin Laden, back in the Watergate scandal, President Nixon, etc., all that sort of stuff. By the way, here's an interesting little factoid for you. You know the way President Nixon was the only American president to be successfully impeached, narrowly avoiding a jail term, by all accounts. Did you know this? Everything that Nixon did that was illegal, that he was accused of, everything that he did back then that nearly saw him in jailed, is now legal. You can do it. You can do all that stuff. I mean, they were putting bugs in the Watergate Hotel to spy on the Democratic, the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, Congress, whatever they're called. Think about what the NSA, the National Security Agency in America, does. The CIA, the spying, the mass sweeping up of emails and text messages and private messaging between individuals on our phones, on our apps, on WhatsApp, and it's all that stuff. That's all swept up, hoovered up by the NSA and analysed. So, anyway, I digress. So Seymour Herschs started, I think it was the New York Times, and then eventually, he every time he exposed something, he kept getting sort of degraded. The more successful he got over the course of his life, it didn't stop him. He still carried on doing it. And he ended up, I think the last publication he ended up for was a London Review of Books. and now it's on his Substack. And the way it's being reported in the press, which I'll read a little article about that, is the way it's being reported in the press is that they're calling him a blogger. Seymour Herschs, a blogger. They're calling him a blogger. These fucking journalists that have never exposed anything in their lives, it's genuinely fucking beyond belief. So let's get to it. So we're going to talk specifically about Nordstream, and I'm going to show you a lot of video about that. We're going to start with this. So the Americans say they didn't do it. So let's just have a little look at this video from your friend and mine, Dan Cohen. Let's see what these guys say. Now, these are American politicians, in their own words, what they have to say about the Nord Stream pipeline before it was sabotaged.
The sledgehammer that we have against Putin is to shut down the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and do it permanently.
This is a real, acute, and proven threat.
I'm a big proponent of making sure we stop Nord Stream 2 from happening.
Stopping the Nord Stream 2.
And we need the chancellor is there right now. Assets like the Nord Stream 2.
And, Trump also isn't wrong to identify Nord Stream 2, this pipeline that he talked about today, as problematic.
There is still time to stop Nord Stream 2 if we act quickly.
The timeline for action is short.
And I'm not going to stop working to halt Nord Stream 2 to stop Russia.
End it once and for all.
I mean, he needs to kill the Nord Stream 2 pipeline right now.
And I think the most important thing right now, and what Zelensky said, is they want Nord Stream 2 stopped. That's what I see as the most tangible reason and the tangible effect.
I believe we must stop this Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
We should have brought the project to an end.
There's still time to stop it, but we need to act quickly.
Nord Stream 2 is a danger to peace as we know it.
Nord Stream 2 is energy blackmail.
It's Putin's pipeline. It's a trap for a Russian trap.
It's energy blackmail. They blew that pipeline up because Europe was going to be dependent on Russian gas, still is dependent on Russian gas. The Nord Stream 2 was going to increase the supply of that gas, which is going to create a stronger trade alliance between Europe and Russia. Now, as I keep saying on this podcast, you have to have neighbourly relations. You have relations with your neighbours. That's what you do. Russia provides us with stuff, and we provide them with services and things and other stuffs. That's the way it works. America doesn't want that because they're a competitor. This is about business, and they have sunk Europe as well as that pipeline in order to improve the lot of American business. That's all this is. This has got nothing to do with Ukrainian freedom. And the ultimate price is paid by the Ukrainian people who are being killed in their tens of thousands on the front lines of this disgusting war. But let's not forget why this war is here. And this is a load of Americans, politicians, every one of them, across party, by the way. There's Democrats and Republicans in these talking heads that you're viewing if you're watching this on YouTube. It's cross-party. They understand what this is. They understand that. I mean, that Senator Ted Cruz is a slimy bastard. Under the definition of slimeball, there's a picture of him. This is a man that was completely cucked by by Donald Trump during his election campaign. It was unbelievable. Donald Trump actually slagged off his wife, and then he got all, I'm all tough and hard and all the rest of it. And then he ended up actually phone banking for Donald Trump like a year later. It was pathetic. But there's nothing these people won't do. They're scum. So back to the video. Now that's only halfway through. There's another minute of this. Check it out.
There will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
We will put an end to it.
Germany should cancel the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. We're looking at a variety of things we could do there.
We've been so far trying to use other tools to stop the Nord Stream 2.
And we got legislation that was appropriate to now have delayed this project significantly. We need further tools. We're prepared to use those tools should you provide them to us. And we've also used our diplomatic capabilities.
This pipeline must be stopped, and the only way to prevent the completion is to use all the tools available to do that.
If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
Kill Nord Stream 2 now and let it rust beneath the waves of the Baltic.
The operator of the Nord Stream gas pipelines, which run between Russia and Germany, says that 3 lines on the Baltic seabed were damaged on Tuesday.
It was a deliberate act of sabotage, and now the Russians are pumping out disinformation and lies.
This is clearly an act of sabotage of some sort, and Russia is certainly the most likely suspect.
And we killed that pipeline dead.
They didn't do it. They didn't do it, apparently. Now, we know they did it. We knew before Seymour Herschs. If Russia wanted to stop supplying gas to Europe, all they had to do was turn the spigot at their end. That was it. Done. And by the way, as I've said this before, Russia is still supplying gas to Europe via India. India is buying the gas from Russia, and India is selling it on at 3 and 4 times the markup to Europe. We're paying through the nose for something that we don't need to be paying through the nose for, in order to this little display of sanctimony and disgust with Russia. Our enemy is not Russia. I've said this for years. I remember saying this back whenever David Cameron was Prime Minister. I'm not afraid of Vladimir Putin. I am fucking petrified of David Cameron, though. Our enemies are closer to home, brothers and sisters, and we need to remember that. So we're going to get into it here. So, Mint Press article, here it is. The article is titled, let me just see, the article is titled, Media Ignore Seymour Herschs Bombshell Report of US Destroying Nord Stream 2. So, let's get into it. This was written by, who the fuck wrote this? Was it Dan Cohen? No, it wasn't. Alan McLeod. I don't know who that is. So, let's get into it. The lack of interest cannot be explained. Sorry, I'll get into it. There's the headline there. So this is a Mint Press News, by the way. It's a very, very good outlet. You should go and check them out. It has now been a week since Seymour Herschs published an in-depth report, and there's a link to it there. My last video, my last podcast, I read the report out in full, 5,000-word article, and it was about half an hour to get through it with you, but I did it so you don't have to. But you can go and read it there if you choose. An in-depth report claiming that the Biden administration deliberately blew up the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline without Germany's consent or even knowledge. An operation that began planning long before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Based on interviews with national security insiders, Herschs, the journalist who broke the stories of the My Lai massacre, the CIA spying program, let me just move my thing here, and the Abu Ghraib torture scandal, among others, claims that in June, US Navy divers travelled to the Baltic Sea and attached C4 explosives. Right, we know all this. It would be a flagrant act of war. Right. Despite this, the corporate media have overwhelmingly ignored the Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter's bombshell. A Mint Press News study analysed the 20 most influential publications. Now, check this out, right? Analysed the 20 most influential publications in the United States according to analytics company SimilarWeb, and found 4 mentions of the report between them. Now, you must remember, now this is me talking, not the article, you must remember that these outlets, every single one of them, are capable of putting out multiple stories on the same topic every day. It's a 24-hour news cycle now, right? So, for example, if we need to smear Jeremy Corbyn, the BBC can do 16 articles on him in one day, as they did. I think it was 16. It might have been more. So, this should be the number one story, headline, leading everything in every news publication in the world. And the only people that are talking about it are people like me. And independent, small journalists. I mean, I'm not a journalist. I'm just a slobber. But in the journalist community, it's all in the indies. It's all the small people. It's all the people on Sub. I mean, the article itself was published on Substack. It's a self-publication platform for journalists. The fact that it even exists is an indictment on the integrity of journalism. Don't you think? So they found back to the article. They found 4 mentions of the report between them. The entirety of the corporate media's attention given to the story consisted of the following: 166-word mini report in Bloomberg, 1 5-minute segment on Tucker Carlson Tonight, Fox News. I'll play you that in a minute. It's with Aaron Mate. 1 600-word roundup in the New York Post, and a shrill Business Insider attack article whose headline labels Herschs a discredited journalist that has given a gift to Putin. And by the way, I'll say this. Every single time Seymour Herschs puts one of these bombshell articles out, this happens. He gets discredited. They call him names. They go through their CAF-funded media infrastructure and they just crucify him. And then time passes, and then 2 years later he gets a Pulitzer Prize. It's the way it goes. All the fucking time. So here they are. The 20, now wait till you hear this. The 20 outlets studied in alphabetical order, just so you can get a scale of what we're talking about. These are publications with websites and TV channels, and in some cases, physical newspapers and magazines. In alphabetical order: ABC News, Bloomberg News, Business Insider, BuzzFeed, CBS, CNBC, CNN, Forbes, Fox News, The Huffington Post, MSNBC, NBC, The New York Post, The New York Times, NPR, People Magazine, Politico, USA Today, The Wall Street Journal, and The Washington Post. Some of the biggest journalism outlets on planet Earth. There's a wee joke for you. CNN up there. Do you see it? CNN. Do you know one of the N's stands for news and the other N stands for not? I don't know where I heard that. Right. Searches for Seymour Herschs and Nordstream were carried out on the websites of each outlet and were then checked against precise Google searches and results from the Dow Jones Factiva News database. Database? I don't think that's how it's pronounced. Database. This lack of interest cannot be explained due to the report's irrelevance. If the Biden administration really did work closely with the Norwegian government to blow up Nord Stream 2, causing billions of dollars worth of immediate damage and plunging an entire region of the world into a freezing winter without sufficient energy, it ranks as one of the worst terrorist attacks in history. A flagrant act of aggression against a supposed ally. Therefore, if Biden did indeed order this attack, it is barely possible to think of a more consequential piece of news indeed. According to Herschs, all those involved, from Biden, Under Secretary of State for Political Affairs Victoria Nuland, she's a fucking villain, by the way. They all are. She's a bad one. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, another cunt, to National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, understood that what they were doing was an act of war. The Nord Stream attack was also one of the world's worst ecological disasters, and this is another point I'm going to make on this. Where's all the fucking environmental groups? Why are they not going mad about this? You Greta Thunberg and all that. I don't want to mention her because she gets a lot of shit, and I don't want to pile on. I don't know if she's legit or not, but either way, where the fuck are they? This is one of the biggest ecological disasters that's ever happened. Consisting of the largest single leak of methane in history, a gas 80 times worse for the planet than carbon dioxide at accelerating climate change. The media system has, predictably, tried to marginalise the report. Bryce Green, a writer and media critic who has closely followed the press' lack of interest in scrutinising the Nord Stream story, told Mint Press, adding, "They don't want to deal with the repercussions. It also reflects poorly on the profession." Even Jeffrey Sachs, in his Bloomberg interview, said that journalists he knew personally understood the evidence, but also understood that the media system they worked in wouldn't respond kindly to any suggestions of US complicity, so they kept quiet. Boom. Jeffrey Sachs is another very credible source on all of this. Green explained the bothersome facts about the war have been consistently swept under the rug, noting that this is indicative of the entire Ukraine war coverage, from hiding the history of NATO expansion to calling Ukrainian Nazis Russian propaganda, to CBS even retracting a story about Ukrainian corruption. The fact that US media figures want to be seen as on the good team or on the right side of history means they're unwilling to confront reality as it exists. Unbelievable. And this is the thing that, like, again, I know we're talking about the media and all that with this article, but if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, if you're reading this, you need to question yourself if you're still sitting on the we're the good guys, the Americans are the good guys, the Ukrainian government, not the people. The government are the good guys. The people are the good guys. The government aren't. You need to question yourself. Over the course of all our lives, we've seen this happen how many times? Do we need to list them? Libya, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, coup after coup after coup in Central and South America. And now Ukraine. But this is the good one. This time they're right. This time they're telling us the truth. Don't be so fucking stupid. Don't be so naive. Don't be a child. Wake up. It's easy. It's easy for us to want to believe that we're the guys. We're the baddies. It's that sketch. Are we the bad? Yes, we're the baddies. We fucked this up. And we're allowing ourselves to be walked into war after war after war over the course of our lifetimes. We don't have it's unbelievable. I'll pull a poster. I'll talk about something else related to this just at the end. Radio silence. Back to the article. This complete radio silence from the country's most influential news organisations is all the more remarkable, considering Hersch's revelations have been all over the newswire services. Reuters, for example, has published 14 separate reports on the topic since Thursday. Every large media outlet in America, and many medium-sized and even small ones, subscribes to Reuters, republishing content from their newswires. So Reuters gathers everything up and farms it out to all these publications. So it is there. They're just not reporting on it. One of the main tasks of a newsroom editor is to follow the newswire and follow up on Reuters content. This means that editors around the country have been bombarded with this story every day since it broke, and virtually every single one of them has passed on it 14 consecutive times. By the way, this article is, just to make that even worse, when was this published? Where's the date? February the 15th. So this is, I'm reading this from 2 days ago. Right? So it's even worse than that. So 14 consecutive times. There's probably been more articles since then. It's still not being reported on. This is not to say that Reuters has been supportive of Hersch's assertions. In the first article on the subject, for example, it was entitled, White House says blog post on the Nordstream explosion is utterly false. Right, there's that blog post thing I was mentioning. Thereby allowing the Biden administration to set the agenda and downplay Hersch's investigation as a mere blog post. Something those in alternative media were quick to highlight, and there's a couple of examples there. Hersch self-published his report on the online platform Substack, a fact that either undermines his findings or the credibility of the corporate media apparatus, depending on one's perspective. The most incredible thing about the backlash against Hersch's article on US blowing up the Nord Stream pipelines is the fact that it's clear no establishment media outlet has any intention of carrying out the basic journalism needed to confirm or refute what he's reported, wrote journalist and Mint Press contributor Jonathan Cook. Other journalists, particularly those connected to the Western intelligence services, were scathing of the report. The only people Hersch impresses anymore are the sort of people who carry water for Putin and Assad. Jesus Christ. Or the terminally dumb, quipped Bellingcat's Elliot Higgins. If you don't know who Bellingcat are, and I don't know who Elliot Higgins is, I haven't got time to go into it right now. Talk about having no credibility. This is scum of the earth. This is scum of the earth. Deeply connected to this whole Ukraine, Hunter Biden laptop, Hillary Clinton, DNC, all that stuff's all wrapped up with this Bellingcat crowd. But anyway, we won't go into it right now. Christo Grozev, another Bellingcat writer, I don't know who that is, labelled Hersch senile, corrupt, and an obsessive liar. By the way, I'm going to show you a quick video of Seymour Herschs talking about this. He's 91. He is not fucking senile. You won't believe that he's 91. It's quite staggering. Who's back to the article, and an obsessive liar whose irresponsible single anonymous sourced reporting by a name with legacy authority is amongst the worst damage to journalism anyone has ever caused. I'm going to push back against that. These people are the worst damage to journalism that's ever been caused. These scum who have completely made journalism untrustworthy. No one believes them anymore. They're like, and you see, where's your proof for that? They're all failing all over the world. If every one of those outlets is being carried by a billionaire to publish propaganda, that's all they're for. Didn't the Washington Post lay off thousands of workers there the other week? Was the Washington one of them anyway? Fuck them. If they're prepared to do this shit work, fuck them. They're not journalists. They don't deserve. They're stealing a living. The worst, and Seymour Hersch's journalism is often single sourced by an anonymous whistleblower who Seymour Hersch has never given up any, and he's always maintained their anonymity and their safety over the course of his huge, massive career. But a single source report, they're criticizing them for a single sourced, single anonymous sourced reporting. But they're always right. He's always right. He'll get a Pulitzer Prize for this in about 3 years. People will be talking about this being this fantastic piece of journalism, but not until they're done crucifying him. This is what they always do. They do it every single fucking time. Bellingcat, Jesus, they're so bad. They're the worst. Back to the article. Fact-checking website Snopes also sprung into action. Again, another fact-checking. This is another undermining of journalist integrity and undermining of journalism. This fact-checking thing. It's bullshit. Calling Hersch's claim a conspiracy that rested on a single, omnipotent, anonymous source. You see? It's funny how they all go out with the same attacks. So they go, he's senile, single-sourced reporting, he's a blogger, bum, bum, bum. And that's all they say. They all say the same thing. Why? It's almost as if they've been given the notes. They've been given the attack lines, how to go after him. This is what we're going to say, bump, bump, bump. And they do. like good little boys and girls. In an interview with the Radio War Nerd podcast, Herschs fired back. I'm going to show you a little bit of this. The New York Times and the Washington Post have just ignored me. What they think I should do is use the source's name, get him put in jail, stuff like that, which would end my career. I've been doing this stuff for 50 years. My lie started in 1969, and I will tell you something. I will protect people. He also noted he actually cultivated multiple corroborative stories for the sources. He also noted that he actually cultivated multiple corroborative, it's a hard word to say, sources for the story. And here's someone kicking back against Snopes on Twitter, Bryce Green. I don't know who that is. Thank God we got Snopes on the case, he says. Notice they had absolutely nothing to say when random people were saying that Russia blew up their own pipeline. Now, when there's a credible accusation of the US complicity, they have to intervene to protect the discourse from conspiracy. And there is the cutout of what appears on the, according to Snopes, Seymour Herschs presents factual background material, but his case for conspiracy is held together, blah, blah, blah. So, we'll finish. I'm not going to read all of this because it's actually really long, but it's really good. So you should go and read the rest of this yourself on Mint Press News. It was published on February the 12th by Alan MacLeod, was it? Yeah. So there's the video I just played you with all the officials, all the senators and whatever American politicians. So there he is there. I'm going to finish. I'll just finish on why Herschs is so important. I'll read the last paragraph. I'll finish on the last paragraph. Well, the second to last paragraph explains just who Herschs is. So just bear with me here. I'm just trying to, there's a lot of information. Yeah. So, born in 1937, working class Jewish immigrant family, Herschs cut his teeth as a reporter in the 60s, came to national attention when he exposed the massacre of hundreds of Vietnam civilians by the US troops at My Lai, a scoop that won him the Pulitzer Prize. 1974, Herschs again caused a national scandal after exposing the massive Nixon-era CIA spying operation, Watergate. 30 years later, he dropped another bombshell on the American public, exposing the US's widespread torture of Iraqi prisoners in Abu Ghraib. Whether it was reporting on the US role in the 1973 coup in Chile or undermining Obama's administration claims on chemical weapons attacks in Syria, Herschs has courted controversy and attacked flak throughout his career. Yet his fearlessness has won him the respect the world over. As journalist, another Glenn Greenwald, another brave individual who is uncorruptible. Seymour Herschs is beyond any reasonable dispute one of the two or three most accomplished, important and courageous journalists of his generation. Very few journalists on the planet, and virtually none who still work inside the nation's largest media corporations, can even get close to him when it comes to having broken more major history-changing stories. So that's what Glenn Greenwald has to say about him. A blogger, a senile blogger, according to Bellingcat. Motherfuckers. So here's the last article, the last paragraph of the article. As I said, it is a lengthy article. I'll give you the bones of it. So here we go. It is for this reason that Hersch's reporting is so important, and why corporate media's steadfast refusal to cover it is so noteworthy. If Herschs is correct, the United States and Norway essentially attacked their supposed NATO allies, something that could have gigantic geopolitical implications, but not if people aren't talking about it. Article 5 of NATO's treaty states that if a NATO member is attacked, then all other NATO members must defend said country. Several NATO members, including the United Kingdom and France, possess nuclear weapons. Of course, NATO will not declare war on the United States, precisely because it is since its very inception, it is an unequal alliance. As Lord Ismay, the organisation's first Secretary General, explained, NATO's role is to keep the Russians out, the Germans down, and the Americans in. In other words, it is a US-dominated confederation meant to stifle the pan-European project that sought to reorient the continent away from serving the US and towards becoming an independent regional bloc. Germans like... So there's... Here we go. So very last line. Thus, it could be said that the invasion of Ukraine has marked a turning point in geopolitical history, whereby the United States is not only carrying out a proxy war against Russia, but engaged in an economic war against the entirety of Europe. If Hersch's Nord Stream story is true, and it is, that was me saying it is, not the author, it could send a shockwave throughout Europe, should cause long-held beliefs about the nature of Europe's relationship with the United States to be challenged. Therefore, given the massive negative consequences of all this for Washington, perhaps it is no surprise that the revelation will not be televised. So there we go. Unbelievable. So I've some video to show you as well. So we're going to get stuck into it. We're nearly done with this. It is genuinely...
There will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
Give me a sec.
How will you do that?
So that was a video of the big man, President Joe Brandon. So we're going to go through a load of Twitter videos here, which this is live, by the way. This is all updating live. So I just typed Nordstream into Twitter, went to the videos tab, and we've got these. So talking specifically about the Nordstream and Seymour Herschs. And you'll note that all the people that are talking about this, my chair's giving me grief. All the people that are talking about this are the small indies. So this is a woman called Katie Halper. You know, she's great and all, but she's
the Herschs thing. I don't know about all the sources. I didn't talk to them myself.
She's brilliant, but again, a small indie. And she was working for one of the big. She was working for Rolling Stone for a while, but they editorialized her out of her job. She basically says, "Nah, I can't work for you people anymore." And she fucking left. So she maintained her credibility, and you can see there she's basically broadcasting out of her spare room. So if you're listening to this, you can hear everything perfectly fine, but the video is available on my YouTube. You can go to Politics, Culture, and Some Other Shit on YouTube and subscribe, like, and share as always. So let's check a few of these videos out to see what other people are saying about Nordstream and Herschs.
And the Herschs thing, I don't know about all the sources. I didn't talk to them myself, but he's got a great track record. And regardless, if you're going to say that the U.S. wasn't behind the Nord Stream, you have to have a conspiracy theory that is far more ridiculous than what Herschs puts out. I mean, this is the most obvious conspiracy in the world. They were talking. So many people have been talking about that. The president, right? The president of the United States was saying, "Oh, we got to get rid of that pipeline. Oh, there are ways. Believe me, there are ways. We can make a pipeline disappear. Oh yeah, I know a guy." I mean, this is. It's just we're at a stage of collapse now in America where it's so out in the open. If you are at all skeptical and with your eyes open, and this Nord Stream thing is a great example of it because it's just ridiculous.
So isn't that a great point? Isn't that a fantastic point? So what he's saying is, if you're saying that America blowing up Nord Stream is a conspiracy, as they are, then your alternative is an even bigger conspiracy because it's mental. What is it? Russia blew up its own fucking pipeline? by the way, there's another little factoid for you. Within a week of the pipeline being blew up, the Nordstream, which is a company registered in Switzerland, I read that was from the Herschs article last week. Within a week, they were out tendering contracts to get it repaired. Why would they fucking get it repaired if they just blew it up? Mad. So, here's the mainstream media. I don't know who this dude is. Let's get into the mainstream media is shoving the Nord Stream bombshell revelation under the carpet. So, here is another
alert. No, Russia. Really the biggest news story of the year so far. Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Seymour Herschs just published the definitive account of what happened to the Nord Stream pipelines when they were sabotaged and destroyed back in September. Spoiler alert, no, Russia didn't blow up their own pipelines. According to Hersch's sources, the explosives were planted in June 2022 by US Navy divers under the guise of the Baltops 22 NATO exercise, and then detonated 3 months later with a remote signal sent by a sonar buoy. The agenda? To make Europe completely dependent on American energy and escalate the war in Ukraine. Easily one of the biggest geopolitical stories since the invasion of Iraq, and yet the legacy media has devoted over 1,000 times more coverage to a Chinese spy balloon flying over America. The media is, as ever, in bed with the military-industrial complex. They don't want this war to end. They want to prolong it for as long as possible.
And I will contribute. Poland is being teed up. You watch. Mark my fucking words. Poland is being teed up. Ukraine has been hollowed out. All the and the rebuild. You know, whenever the Ukraine war will end, when all the contracts are signed for the American corporations to go in and rebuild, BlackRock being the biggest of them all, they're already signed. Zelensky did a press conference about it. It's all over. But Poland is being teed up next. And I don't... This is where I struggle with all of this. I can't believe how evil these people are. I genuinely can't believe how evil they are. But the complicity of... that the Americans would do it to Europe, okay, it's hard to believe, but okay. But that the Europeans will go along with it, that's the bit I struggle with. I don't, like, you're doing it to yourself. So here is, I'm not going to play that because it's quite long. Here is, Jens Stoltenberg. So Jens Stoltenberg is the NATO Secretary General. He's a Norwegian. By the way, and Norway had obviously they played a part in this, and they benefited because they supply natural gas to Europe as well. So it's in their economic interest to do this. Nice neighbourly behaviour, that, isn't it? So here's Jens Stoltenberg, who is a NATO man through and through. Cut him down, cut him like a rock, and he's just got NATO through the middle. Loves the NATO by. He's up to his bowels in the old NATO. Check it out.
Best security of critical undersea infrastructure. The sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines has reminded us all of the vulnerabilities we face. Ministers tasked the NATO military authorities to provide advice on what more we should do, including through better coordination and cooperation with the private sector. And I am standing up a critical understanding.
Fucking bastard. Evil, evil bastard. So here is who is this? China's Mao Ning. No, I don't know if this is in Chinese or English. Okay, it's in Chinese, so I'm not. As I said, this is all live actually. So I'm not going to play that. US divers placed explosives in Nord Stream under the guise of NATO maneuvers, and the Norwegians set them off. So let me just play this little video here, see what this is.
Det här är ju första gången som man kan se med egna ögon nu hur det ser ut nere på botten där Nord Stream sprängdes av.
Okay, that's more Norwegian, I think. So there's President Joe Brandon saying there's going to be no...
How will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
Wow. So I wonder, is this a joke one? So let me see if this
line and the
Navy SEAL tells us
Hey Patriots,
Nordstream.
Here's what you need to know about the Nord Stream pipeline and the article that came out saying that the United States is responsible for the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline. That's absolutely the case. I've known it for quite a while. The United States has denied it, but so most of you have known that is the case. You've speculated that is the case. I know it because I put in the Navy a couple of the gentlemen who were involved with it. And we have a close relationship. So here's what you need to know. The White House is denying it, but they are the ones who leaked it intentionally. Now why? Well, because it puts Putin in a position where he must respond. Putin will respond in like kind, and then we will escalate.
I'm not so sure about that. I don't agree. I don't think that's right. I don't think Vladimir Putin needs to respond to that. Now, here's a good one. This is a different one. Right, I'm going to play you. We're nearly done here. So I want to play you before I finish Seymour Herschs. So this is a little video of Seymour Herschs talking. This man is 91 years of age. Now, seriously, check this out. Does this man seem senile to you? This is a report from OAN. I think that's a Colombian outlet. I'm not 100% on that, but it's definitely South American. So check this out. This is a lady called Stella Escobedo, and she's reporting on Seymour Hersch's report about the Nord Stream pipeline. Yeah, he's not making these decisions. Yep. So, there you go. So does Seymour Herschs seem senile to you? I know that's not scientific, but you heard the man talking. Let's listen again. So there we go. If you think America didn't do it, as the dude in the other video said, you're going to have to come up with an even more outrageous conspiracy theory in order to counter. So there's Sergey Lavrov. So back to these Twitter videos again, and I'm going to finish with just a little thing. Is this Sergey Lavrov? So he's the Russian foreign minister, diplomat numero uno. Who is this?
Scoop Journalism's top award more than 5 decades ago for.
So more the same. So who's this? Let me see.
Deliberate act of sabotage, and he said now the Russians are pumping out missiles.
So, let's check this out. So, I haven't seen this. So, White House spokesman Jake Sullivan, whom Seymour Herschs discovered was directly involved in the U.S. plot to sabotage Nord Stream, suggests Russia might have been responsible.
Information and lies about it. Should we take that to mean that the U.S. now believes that Russia was likely responsible for this act of sabotage?
Well, first, Russia has done what it frequently does when it is responsible for something, which is make accusations that it was really someone else.
So this was at the time. So it's not, that's bullshit. Okay, we know what they did. There's Jen Stoltenberg again. I wonder, can I actually find Claire Daly? She gave out at the European Union. So let me just see if I can find this video for you. Her and Mick Wallace went boogaloo at oh, here it is. No, that's... Oh, here it is. Is this it? Yeah. So
Nordstream gas explosion. Since September, the lack of interest in finding answers to who was behind the Nord Stream gas explosion has been frankly astounding. This was an act of sabotage, an act of unrivalled vandalism, economically and environmentally, and not a word, no discussion, no questions. Then along comes Seymour Herschs, the world's most acclaimed, distinguished living investigative journalist. He produces a detailed claim that the United States executed this explosion with the help of Norway. Planned months before the invasion, a Norwegian Navy P-8 surveillance plane dropped a sonar buoy on the 26th of September, which triggered explosions planted by US Navy Panama City divers 3 months earlier under a NATO exercise, and still nothing. I don't know what happened, but I want to know. This is a man who doesn't make claims lightly, a man with contacts, and I find it frankly jaw-dropping that the EU is not asking questions as to who is responsible for sabotaging the livelihoods of our citizens. I am ashamed to be a European.
Good girl yourself, Claire Daly. Another person, and I'm going to see if I can find this quick one by Mick Wallace as well, because he went fucking mental. So, oh, this is it.
It was only last September, Commission President von der Leyen stated that it was paramount to now investigate the Nord Stream pipeline attack, and that any deliberate disruption of active European energy is unacceptable and will lead to the strongest possible response. The strongest possible response. Well, Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter Seymour Herschs, probably the most legendary investigative journalist alive, just published a report that presents detailed claims that, on President Biden's orders, the US, with Norway's help, blew up the Nord Stream pipelines. Herschs has a long track record of journalistic integrity. This was a premeditated terrorist attack on European critical infrastructure. It was also environmental terrorism. Does the EU care? Do you need to know who did it, or do you want to know? Herschs says the US did it. Did you ask him? Did you ask them, did they do it? or do you ask them questions anymore? Have we become so subservient? Has the EU become so subservient to US empire? They just can't even ask them if they did it. Is it a fucking joke?
Yo, good man, Michael. So, there we go. I'm going to finish on this little poster for you. Rage Against the War Machine. February 19th in Washington, D.C. Anybody, you know, I may as well just put it out there. It's not that I think any of you guys are going to make this, but this is the point. You can see there the organisers. You can see up here the organisers. It's at the top of the poster is the Libertarian Party and the People's Party. They're the organisers. Now there are some. This is against as Donald Trump's old Secretary of Defense said. The American military-industrial complex has become a multi-headed hydra, and it's out of control. And this is what's happened. Now, this rally is going to be huge in America. It looks like it's being teed up to be absolutely enormous. But the thing that's important about it, it's not that it's happening, which it needs to happen, and that is important. It's cutting across. The organisers have made it clear they do not care whether you're from the left or whether you're from the right or the centre or neither. It doesn't matter. This is about one issue. This is about being against the American war machine. And this particular war, because it's being escalated against a nuclear armed superpower. And with the obvious potential consequences of that, I do not need to adumbrate for you. So people like Chris Hedges and Jimmy Dore, Aaron Mattei, Max Blumenthal, people that I follow closely, they're speaking on it. And then other people like Ron Paul, the libertarian politician from, not Texas, somewhere like that anyway. He is against the state. He wants no social security, no health care, no. You have those things in America anyway, but these are people that are ideologically opposed on so many issues, but on this one issue, and this is what I think represents the probably the best hope we have. We need to come together on these single issues, and we need, as long as you're not some goose-stepping Nazi, as long as you're not a fascist or far-right person, I will stand shoulder to shoulder with you to oppose this. And when it comes to issues about healthcare, what role the state plays in education and all these things, I will disagree with you. I will disagree with you, and I will argue with you, and I will fight with you. But on this issue, I will stand beside you, because in a world of nuclear war, there are no socialists left. We're all dead, right? So that's what this represents, and I think it's a great indicator of not only where we need to go, but how serious the issues are. So, okay. So that's the podcast. I was only supposed to do this for a little while. I've gone massively over. So I was going to stitch this together with some other issues. This is going to be a podcast on its own. This one. I hope that's okay. If you want to, I'm going to do another couple of YouTube videos while I'm here, and I'll edit a few of these things and throw them up on Twitter and YouTube and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to talk about the rise of the far right in Ireland. Tommy Robinson is in Dublin right now. Unfucking believable. I actually want to get somebody on to talk about that, but I've got a couple of things I want to show you about that. With turns out Ireland has a far right element within its population, which I didn't think existed. Well, I'm not naive, but you get my point. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, I'm going to do a video on the Ohio rail disaster, accident, another big environmental disaster that's going on in Ohio right now. Do you know about that? Probably not. Another case of media silence, by the way, it's connected to this. We're going to talk about that. So I'm going to do these other videos. I'm going to throw them up on YouTube. So go, if you want those, go onto my Patreon, and you'll get early access to those, and then the rest. Then eventually they'll go up onto the YouTube. They'll be open to everyone. But these ones will be going up from my patrons. So that's it. We're done. Nord Stream media silence, mostly.